It could shock even seasoned diplomats that a traditional African monarch would receive a welcome usually reserved for heads of state with executive power. Yet when King Mesuzulu Welithini arrived in Israel, the reception he received from President Isaac Herzog immediately signaled that something unusual was unfolding. This was not a courtesy stop, not a ceremonial nod, but a moment that quietly disrupted expectations about who holds relevance in modern global politics. For decades, traditional kings have been treated as cultural symbols rather than political actors. That assumption began to crack the moment Herzog personally extended a warm welcome to King Mesuzulu. In diplomatic circles, presence matters. Who greets you, how they greet you, and the tone they set all speak louder than official statements. Observers noticed that this welcome carried intention, respect, and recognition beyond protocol. King Mesuzulu's journey to the throne has been anything but smooth. Legal challenges, internal royal disputes, and public skepticism followed his ascension after the death of his father, King Welithini. Many questioned whether his reign would ever stabilize. Yet standing on international ground, received with dignity by a foreign president, he appeared far removed from the image of a contested king. In that moment, he looked like a monarch whose authority extended beyond borders. Israel, a nation deeply shaped by history, symbolism, and survival, does not engage lightly with tradition. Its leaders understand legacy, inherited responsibility, and the power of identity. By welcoming King Mesuzulu in this manner, Herzog was acknowledging something familiar, a leader who carries not just a title, but the weight of a people's memory and continuity. This shared understanding created an unspoken bond. What made the moment more striking was what did not happen. There was no excessive media spectacle, no loud declarations, no dramatic announcements. The simplicity of the interaction amplified its significance. In diplomacy, restraint often signals confidence. The absence of noise suggested that both leaders understood the gravity of the exchange without needing to explain it. Back in South Africa, the images traveled faster than any official commentary. Supporters of the Zulu monarchy saw validation. Critics were forced to pause. International recognition has a way of reshaping domestic narratives. A king seen as embattled at home was suddenly viewed as respected abroad. That contrast unsettled existing assumptions. The welcome also raised uncomfortable questions for political observers. Why would Israel elevate a traditional monarch in this way? The answer lies partly in shifting global dynamics. As modern states grapple with identity crises, leaders rooted in tradition offer something rare: continuity. King Mesuzulu represents an institution that predates colonial borders, modern constitutions, and contemporary political parties. That longevity carries its own authority. For African traditional leaders, this moment quietly opened a door. It suggested that relevance is not determined solely by elections or constitutions, but by the ability to represent people meaningfully. In a world increasingly fragmented, symbols of unity hold renewed value. Herzog's welcome reflected an understanding of that reality. Criticism, however, followed swiftly. Some argued that the visit was being overinterpreted. Others accused King Mesuzulu of seeking external validation, while internal issues remained unresolved. Yet such criticism overlooked a basic truth of power. Legitimacy is reinforced through recognition. History is filled with leaders who strengthen their standing by being acknowledged beyond their immediate domains. King Mesuzulu himself offered little commentary. That silence became part of the story. By not over-explaining the visit, he allowed observers to draw their own conclusions. Silence, in leadership, can be strategic. It allows actions to speak, and in this case, the action had already spoken loudly. The meeting also highlighted a broader trend that many have ignored. Traditional leadership is not disappearing, it is adapting. Kings and chiefs are increasingly engaging with global conversations on culture, development, and diplomacy. This visit placed King Msiuzulu within that evolving landscape, not as an artifact of the past, but as a participant in the present. Israel's own motivations cannot be separated from this context. The country has long cultivated relationships beyond conventional political channels, understanding that influence often flows through culture, heritage, and shared narratives. Engaging a Zulu king aligns with a diplomacy that values depth over optics. Inside the Zulu nation, the psychological impact was significant. Recognition from afar often strengthens loyalty at home. For many subjects, seeing their king welcomed on an international stage reinforced pride and confidence in the institution of the monarchy. That emotional resonance cannot be measured in policy terms, but it shapes collective identity. As debates continued, one thing became clear. This was not a random event. It was a carefully timed, carefully executed engagement that reflected changing attitudes toward traditional authority. The world is rediscovering that leadership does not come in a single form. It can wear a crown passed down through generations and still command respect in modern halls of power. Looking ahead, this moment will likely be revisited as a reference point, not because of any agreement signed or speech delivered, but because it marked a subtle shift. A traditional African king was treated as a relevant global actor, and that alone altered the conversation. In the end, the warm welcome extended by President Isaac Herzog did more than honor King Msiuzulu. It challenged assumptions, unsettled critics, and reminded observers that power is not always defined by office or vote counts. Sometimes, power is carried in history, recognized in silence, and confirmed by who opens the door to receive you.